Somewhere online, right now, a video is being uploaded. The headline is almost always the same. Something like big breaking, new dinar rate revealed. Thousands of people click on it. Some of them have been clicking on videos exactly like it for 10 years. Here's the question this documentary is going to answer. Why does a currency update that could happen any day keep getting predicted year after year and never actually happen? We're not here to mock anyone. We're not here to attack a person or channel. We're here to look at the pattern calmly, with evidence, the way an investigator would. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how the Iraqi dinar claim works, who benefits from it, what regulators have actually said about it, and what real financial experts recommend instead. Let's start at the beginning. To understand this story, we have to go back to 2003. After the Iraq War began, Iraq's old currency, the dinar featuring Saddam Hussein's portrait, was replaced with a new version. Site Index 1-1 since the 2003 Iraq War. Various promoters have claimed that the Iraqi dinar will undergo a revaluation, meaning that dinar holders would make enormous profits. Site. The idea was simple, and it was emotionally powerful. Buy a large stack of Iraqi dinar for a small amount of US dollars now. Wait for Iraq's government to dramatically raise the currency's official value, then exchange it back and become wealthy almost overnight. It sounded like a modern-day treasure map, and it spread fast, especially through online forums, YouTube channels, and social media groups dedicated entirely to dinar updates. Over the following 2 decades, this claim didn't fade away. It evolved. New predicted dates came and went. New insider sources appeared. New channels formed around daily or weekly intel videos, breaking down rumors, screenshots, and unconfirmed reports. Site Index 25-1, as one industry publication covering Iraq's economy, put it in 2025, for over 2 decades, fraudulent promoters and self-proclaimed dinar gurus have kept an elaborate promotional cycle running around the Iraqi dinar. Site. That's the story. Now here's the open loop for this chapter. If this idea has been about to happen for over 20 years, what does that tell us about how it actually works? Let's look under the hood. Sources for this chapter: Forbes Dinar Revaluation Schemes Probed by FBI 2015. Iraq Business News, the Iraqi dinar revaluation deception. 10 persistent false claims exposed September 2025. To understand why this claim persists, you need to understand 2 very different things: how currency exchange rates actually change, and how the dinar community operates. First, the real-world mechanics. A country's currency doesn't jump in value overnight because of a private announcement or a rumor. Exchange rates are set through a complex mix of a country's economic output, foreign currency reserves, inflation, trade balances, and central bank policy, adjusted gradually, over time, through official channels like a nation's central bank. Site Index 2-1, the International Monetary Fund, has warned repeatedly that dramatic revaluations like those promised by online promoters are economically unfeasible, and instead advocates for gradual, market-driven currency adjustments. Site. That single fact is worth pausing on. The organization that actually monitors global currency stability has said the opposite of what dinar promotion videos claim. Second, how the online ecosystem works. Communities built around this topic typically follow a familiar content pattern. A host presents intel, meaning unverified claims sourced from anonymous contacts, leaked documents that can't be authenticated, or interpretations of ordinary Iraqi government activity framed as secret signals. Viewers are told that change is close, sometimes this week, sometimes any day now. When the date passes without anything happening, the explanation usually shifts to a new date, a new obstacle, or a new insider. This is where the curiosity loop resets. And it's worth remembering as we go forward. Repetition of a claim is not the same thing as proof of a claim. So if the mechanics don't support the story, why does the story keep going? That's next. Sources for this chapter: International Monetary Fund Public Guidance on Exchange Rate Policy, as referenced in Iraq Business News, the Iraqi dinar revaluation deception, September 2025. Let's be precise here, because precision matters in an investigation. No Iraqi government body, no central bank, and no recognized international financial authority has ever confirmed the kind of dramatic, overnight currency revaluation described in these videos. Site Index 2-1. Not one special rate claimed by promoters has ever been verified, and no government or banking authority has ever backed these revaluation claims. Site. Major banks don't treat the Iraqi dinar as a special upcoming opportunity. Site Index 2-1. Banks generally treat the Iraqi dinar like any other exotic currency, one with limited liquidity and high transaction cost. Site. There's also a practical problem that rarely gets mentioned in promotional videos. Even if someone wanted to redeem large amounts of dinar, Site Index 5-1, the currency can typically only be redeemed inside Iraq, since most established currency exchange houses and banking institutions outside the country cannot convert it to US dollars. Site. That detail alone explains a lot. It means most holders outside Iraq have very limited, if any, real ability to cash out even under normal circumstances, regardless of what the exchange rate theoretically becomes. And because there's no open, regulated exchange for the dinar in most Western countries, Site Index 7-1 dealers are largely free to set their own buyback and sell prices, since no public exchange exists to check them against a site. So we have three separate, verifiable facts working against the claim. 1. No financial authority has confirmed it. 2. The leading global monetary organization says it's economically unrealistic. 3. Even in a best-case scenario, converting large amounts of currency back to dollars is far harder than the pitch suggests. This isn't a fringe view either. Site Index 22-1 state securities regulators, including the Texas State Securities Board, have specifically advised investors considering the dinar to request a written prospectus or offering document before putting in any money, and to walk away if no such document exists. Site Index 26-1. The Alabama Securities Commission has separately warned that promoters of foreign currency schemes involving the Iraqi dinar typically lure investors with the promise of controlling a large amount of currency for a small initial cost, while predicting steep increases in value that supposedly carry little or no downside risk. Site. If the evidence doesn't support the claim, who benefits from it continuing? Let's follow the money. Sources for this chapter: International Monetary Fund Exchange Rate Policy Guidance, Washington State Department of Financial Institutions Consumer Alert, Texas State Securities Board, Investor Alert. Guess who's coming to dinar? Alabama Securities Commission Investor Alert on Iraqi dinar and foreign currency schemes. This is where we shift from what's being claimed to what's actually happening commercially. Content built around recurring urgent updates tends to perform extremely well on platforms like YouTube. Here's why: structurally, a video titled "Breaking Dinar Update" creates urgency. Urgency drives clicks. Frequent uploads keep a channel active in the algorithm. And a loyal, emotionally invested audience returns again and again, waiting for the day the prediction finally comes true. This is a content format, not a conspiracy. Financial YouTube as a whole often rewards recurring urgency. Crypto, stocks, and Forex channels use similar patterns. It's a business model built around attention. Separately, and just as important, there's an actual industry of dinar sellers, businesses and individuals who sell physical Iraqi dinar notes to consumers, often at a markup. Site Index 7-1. Since no formal exchange exists for the Iraqi dinar, sellers can charge buyers largely whatever price they choose. Site. That means the more people believe a revaluation is imminent, the more dinar currency tends to sell, regardless of whether the underlying claim ever comes true. We want to be clear and fair here. Not everyone who talks about the dinar is necessarily selling something, and we are not claiming any single individual has criminal intent. What we can say based on verifiable public record is that this ecosystem, as a whole, has produced real financial incentives to keep the story alive. And in some cases, regulators have found those incentives crossed a legal line. That's our next chapter. Sources for this chapter: Washington State Department of Financial Institutions Consumer Alert on Iraqi dinar scams. U.S. Department of Justice press release. Northern District of Georgia, 2018. This chapter is the most important one in the entire documentary because it moves from pattern to documented fact. Federal law enforcement in the United States has directly investigated companies operating in this space. Site Index 1-1, the FBI and the Internal Revenue Service's Criminal Investigation Division have investigated a currency investment scheme involving the Iraqi dinar and certain other foreign currencies. Site. One of the largest cases involved a company called Sterling Currency Group, based in Georgia, which also operated under the names Dinar Banker and GD Associates. Site Index 6-1, the FBI and IRS investigated individuals associated with Sterling Currency Group, and on October 9, 2018, defendants Tyson Rame, James Shaw, and Frank Bell were convicted of conspiracy to commit mail and wire fraud, along with mail fraud and wire fraud charges. Site Index 6-1, Rame and Bell were also convicted of making false statements to federal agents, though the defendants were acquitted of separate money laundering charges. Site. The scale of that case is a matter of public record. According to the U.S. Department of Justice, Sterling Currency Group sold more than $600 million worth of Iraqi dinar and other currencies, and prosecutors said the company's owners promoted false rumors of an imminent revaluation while concealing that they secretly paid to have the currency promoted on dinar discussion forums and conference calls. After sentencing, Rame, Shaw, and Bell received prison terms of 180, 95, and 84 months, respectively. And in 2024, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit affirmed the convictions on appeal, meaning the verdict has now been upheld at the federal appellate level. Before that criminal case, federal prosecutors had already taken action to seize assets. Site Index 8-1, in a federal complaint, prosecutors said the Atlanta-based company was one of the largest sellers of Iraqi dinar in the country, and that the business was built on what they described as a scheme to defraud investors hoping to profit from a currency revaluation. Site Index 9-1, prosecutors sought to seize the company's associated homes, airplanes, luxury cars, and beach properties as part of the case. Site. Sterling Currency Group wasn't an isolated case. In a separate SEC enforcement action, Site Index 3-1, a promoter named Hansen told investors that investment risk was low and that returns were not a matter of if, but when, while claiming his role involved traveling internationally to meet dinar holders on behalf of a government-backed deal. Site Index 3-1, the SEC alleged he knew the investments weren't profitable and that he did not have access to the funds he claimed, and he ultimately signed a settlement agreeing to repay $1.7 million. Site. State-level regulators have issued similar warnings for over a decade, and they continue to do so. Site Index 5-1, the Washington State Department of Financial Institutions specifically warned consumers about scams involving Iraqi dinar currency exchange services, citing the sudden popularity of the dinar and resulting consumer complaints. Cite more broadly. Site Index 24-1, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission and the North American Securities Administrators Association have jointly warned that off-exchange foreign currency trading carries extreme risk for retail investors and, in many cases, involves outright fraud. Site. A warning regulators say applies directly to dinar-style currency schemes. To summarize this chapter plainly, this is not a case of no one has looked into this. Federal investigators, federal prosecutors, the courts, and multiple state regulators have all examined parts of this industry, and in multiple documented cases, found criminal fraud, with convictions that have since been upheld on appeal. That doesn't mean every person discussing the dinar online is committing a crime, but it does mean the pattern of urgent updates promising imminent wealth has, historically, been directly connected to real, prosecuted, and appellate-confirmed fraud cases. Now let's talk about the people on the other side of these headlines, the actual holders. Sources for this chapter: U.S. Department of Justice, Northern District of Georgia, owners of currency exchange business that made $600 million convicted of fraud October 2018, United States versus Bell, 112 F.4 th 1318, 11th Circle 2024. FBI, seeking victim information in sterling currency group Iraqi dinar investment investigation. U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission enforcement action against Iraqi dinar promoter Hansen. Washington State Department of Financial Institutions Consumer Alert. FNASA Joint Investor Alert on foreign currency trading fraud. Behind every one of these cases are real people, not villains, not fools. Just people who wanted a better financial future. Site Index 1-1 financial columnists covering this topic for years have reported that sellers of the currency have promised untold thousands of investors that they would profit enormously once a revaluation occurred, a payday that, to date, has not happened. Site. Some people bought a small amount of dinar out of curiosity, treating it like a lottery ticket. That's a very different situation from someone who put a significant portion of their savings into it, waiting years for a payoff that never arrived. This is the emotional core of the story, and it deserves to be treated with respect, not ridicule. People generally don't fall for financial claims because they're careless. They fall for them because the claim is wrapped in hope, urgency, and a sense of being let in on a secret that the mainstream doesn't understand yet. That combination, hope plus urgency plus secrecy, is one of the most persuasive patterns in human psychology. It's the same emotional structure found in many other investment schemes throughout history, regardless of the specific product being sold. If someone you know has invested heavily in this claim, the most productive response usually isn't confrontation. It's calm, evidence-based conversation, the same tone we're using in this documentary. So if this path hasn't led anywhere for 2 decades, what should someone do instead? Let's talk about real alternatives. Sources for this chapter: Forbes Dinar Revaluation Schemes Probed by FBI 2015, U.S. Department of Justice Press Release, Northern District of Georgia, 2018. This documentary isn't going to tell you exactly where to put your money. That's not our place. And anyone who tells you that with total certainty online should be a red flag in itself. But we can point toward the kind of guidance that regulators and consumer protection agencies consistently recommend. Site Index 2-1 Consumer Protection Guidance around currency schemes consistently advises people to consult a licensed financial advisor before making any currency-related investment decision. Site. Licensed advisors are required to act in regulated frameworks, with accountability that anonymous online intel sources simply don't have. Beyond that, financial literacy itself is a form of protection. Understanding basic concepts, how exchange rates function, how liquidity works, what regulatory bodies like the SEC and IMF actually do, makes it dramatically harder for any high-urgency claim, dinar-related or otherwise, to take hold emotionally. Site Index 2-1 Financial experts and consumer advocates commonly point to certain warning signs across currency and investment schemes in general. Specific date predictions for major financial events, guaranteed higher returns, and pressure to act quickly are all considered red flags worth taking seriously. Site. If a claim is real, it will still be real after you've taken the time to verify it independently through a licensed professional or an official government source. Urgency is not evidence. Sources for this chapter: Texas State Securities Board Investor Alert, CNESA Joint Investor Alert on Foreign Currency Trading Fraud, Iraq Business News, the Iraqi Dinar Revaluation Deception, September 2025. So let's close the loop we opened at the very beginning. Why does the Iraqi Dinar update keep getting predicted year after year without resolution? Because the claim isn't built on confirmed government policy or verified financial mechanics. It's built on an ongoing content and sales ecosystem, one that in multiple documented cases has been directly tied to federal fraud prosecutions. That doesn't require attacking any one person. It just requires looking honestly at 2 decades of unmet predictions alongside the actual public record from federal and state regulators. If this video helped you understand the pattern more clearly, consider sharing it with someone who might be looking at one of these breaking update videos right now. Sometimes the most valuable thing you can offer someone isn't an argument. It's simply the documented facts presented calmly. Before making any financial decision involving foreign currency, talk to a licensed financial advisor. This content is for educational purposes only and is not financial advice. Thank you for watching.